the prosecution called this guy Dale W. Griffiths, which was hilarious, right? So this guy is a expert in the occult, to testify to murders and to testify that they were a satanic ritual and that these boys fit the bill. And he basically is on the witness stand going, yes, satanic members were black. Yes, I would expect to see this. Yes, they sometimes paint their hair black and have black fingernails. And I'm sitting here going, well, fuck, I wear black T-shirts. Am I going to get convicted of murder? Well, you know what? In West Memphis, Arkansas, in the mid '90s, probably. Right? That's kind of sort of what it seems like. But the funniest part about this is why I kind of say that this is funny, is that this guy graduated from, he had his PhD from Columbia Pacific University, which is a unaccredited kind of degree mill where you kind of mail in and you get a degree. And the defense even questioned him. They're like, so how many classes did you take to obtain your master's degree from Columbia Pacific University? And he goes, what do you mean? And the defense, how many classes did you have to take to obtain it? And he kind of stops for a second. He goes, none. Oh, okay, so none. So you didn't actually take any classes. You just kind of send them a check and get your master's. I took no classes. What about to get your PhD from Columbia Pacific University? How many classes did you take? None. So besides that, just circus of insanity, they just allowed that guy to go up there and just be like, no, these boys are in the cult. Take it from me, right? Take it on my good authority from Columbia Pacific University that these boys are from hell. They are the devil. So on March 19th, Echols and Baldwin were found guilty of 3 counts of murder. The court sentenced Damien Echols to death and Baldwin to life in prison. At trial, the defense team argued that the news articles from the time could have been a source for Echols' knowledge about the genital mutilation. Echols said his knowledge was limited to what was on TV. The prosecution claimed that Echols' knowledge was nonetheless too close to the facts. So they really kind of took this and just pushed this through and convicted these guys. I mean, I would encourage you, again, I can't say this enough, to go kind of dig in and watch the documentaries. They're a great source. There's a lot of stuff on the internet about it. But there was just this glaring lack of evidence. And so there's this like big missing pile of evidence. But they looked right. They smelled right. And by God, I think they worship the devil. So, boom, there you go. Life plus 40 for one, life for another one, and death for Damien Echols. There was a lot of criticism of the investigation, and due to this criticism, there was tons and tons and tons of kind of outpouring of support. There was a lot of protesters. There was the HBO documentaries, Paradise Lost, Paradise Lost 2, kind of going on and on and on. There was just lots of public outcry from musicians and all kinds of the celeb crowd and just normal people going, this is kind of bullshit. Right, this is kind of bullshit. And then they started to find all this evidence that the West Memphis police that just kind of missed. Right, there was a bite mark on one of the victims that they just didn't notice somehow. Oh, I didn't notice the bite mark, which seems like that would be kind of numero uno to like kind of go over the body and look for stuff. Right, there was a John Mark Byers knife that he gave to one of the documentary filmmakers that was serrated. So there was this kind of whole notion that there were scrape marks on the victims that came from a serrated knife. There was, more evidence around the teeth imprints. There was some folks kind of changed their stories. But the kind of bombshell was this: DNA testing. There was DNA evidence and new physical evidence. So in 2007, DNA that was collected from the crime scene was finally tested. So out of all those boys, out of those three young men that were convicted, they did not find any match for their DNA. There was no match. Right? So they found a hair that was not inconsistent with, which means that there's a high probability that it belonged to him, of Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs. And the more interesting part is where they found it. They found it tied into the knots of one of the shoestrings that was used to bind the victim. Now, for sure, you might have, and so what discredits this a little bit is you have to kind of stick with that notion it's not inconsistent with, which means it's not like 1 out of a bazillion. It's like 1 out of maybe a million, right? So there's still a pretty good chance. But the fact that there could have been this transfer, right, of that hair, it is his stepfather. He does live in that house. The hair could have been wound around the shoestring. There's all kinds of other ways it could have ended up there. But the fact that it was tied into the knot is pretty interesting, right? And it's pretty interesting that they did not use that or produce that during the original trial. So with this new evidence, the three are constantly trying to seek appeal, and they're constantly getting shut down, constantly getting shut down, constantly getting shut down. This goes all the way to the Arkansas Supreme Court, right? That's kind of where things start to change, because they're going, again, appeal, denied. They wanted, the state had they did not want to get egg on their face, right? They wanted to make sure that these convictions stuck. They had their Satanists, and they wanted to make sure their Satanists stayed in jail, and they didn't want egg on their face for them getting out. But with this overwhelming evidence, this overwhelming outcry of support from the general public, from other law enforcement agencies, from celebrities, from everyone, and with that new evidence, and now there is, around 2008, there's all these allegations of jury misconduct coming to light, right? Where basically the one of the jurors that ended up being the juror foreman basically said that he wanted to convict these people before he even went to trial. He was already, for sure, that he's seen that as his God-given task to go forth and send these Satanists to jail. So there was a request for retrial in 2007, 2010. They filed the papers. Eccles' defense started seeking a retrial and immediate release from prison. They cited all this evidence. They cited the stuff with jury misconduct. They talked about the new statements from other witnesses. They used expert testimony around the knife marks and the injuries to the Byers boys' genitals that came from animal predation. And when you look at the pictures, you can just look at it. It looks like I'm kind of a hillbilly. It looks like a coyote kind of digging at something, right? You don't really see it and go, oh, that's a serrated blade, where they just kind of scraped it down someone's body. So with all of this new evidence presented, denied. Still denied. The same Judge David Burnett, denied the request for retrial, and he cited the DNA test inconclusive. So this is when it finally went to the Supreme Court. They heard oral arguments for the case in 2010. Their ruling, the Arkansas Supreme Court ordered a lower judge to consider whether newly analyzed DNA might exonerate the three. The justices also instructed the lower court to examine claims of misconduct by the jurors. And so they basically, this is one of their last stops, if not their last stop. And the Arkansas Supreme Court kind of came through in a pinch. So this is where it gets kind of wacky. This is where it gets, it really gets you to that point to where you go, justice doesn't fucking exist, right? When you start looking at this. So after weeks of negotiation, in 2011, they were released from prison as part of a plea deal. So due to the Arkansas Supreme Court, the three entered into unusual Alford plea deals. So this Alford plea is a legal mechanism that allows people to plead guilty while asserting that they're innocent, but they're basically pleading guilty because they see no other way out, right? You got Damien Eccles, which is facing death. So in all likelihood, they could have taken this to trial, because they were going to get granted a retrial at this point if they pushed forward. They could take this to trial and probably like 80% chance to get acquitted. But you're gambling with Damien Eccles' life at this point, right? And the state basically presents this deal going, well, if you all plead guilty, we'll say all is well and we'll let you out of prison. And that's that, rather than going to retrial. So under the deal, Judge David Lasser vacated the previous convictions, including capital murder. He ordered a new trial. Each man then entered an Alford plea for the lesser charge of first and second degree murder while verbally stating their innocence. So to have to stand there and go, nope, I'm guilty, but I'm innocent, but I'm entering a plea of guilty because it is within my best interest to not die and be released from jail. So that's where I'm kind of going, what the fuck? What the fuck, right? But that's what happens. That's what happens. So it was still a win, though, right? It's still a win. Unfortunately, these folks had been imprisoned for a total of 18 years and 78 days for a crime which technically they pled guilty to, but that they pretty much didn't do. Right? That there's a like a 99% chance that they did not do it. At least the evidence never supports it. Let's just say that. Without even talking about guilt, let's just say that these 3 young men spent 18 years, 78 days in an Arkansas penitentiary for a case that had 0 evidence, simply because they looked different, they acted different, and they liked heavy metal music. That's really what the entire case hinged upon. They're Satanists because they dress in black, they dye their hair black, they have black fingernails, and I saw one wearing a Metallica t-shirt one time. How insane. How absolutely insane. Now, I think the saddest part, and I haven't really followed up, so probably shame on me a little bit on some of these things, but the saddest part is that the state, with those guilty pleas, those Alfred pleas, just kind of said, well, yeah, they did it, and we're just not going to dig in any further. How, just, right, insane. What a miscarriage of justice to not only have 3 folks stand there and basically plead guilty while declaring their innocence, but also to abandon seeking any true justice for the victims of this case. Now, with the Alfred pleas, what's really unfortunate about that is then these guys can't really turn around and sue the court system. Like, they can't turn around and sue the state of Arkansas because they pled guilty. Right, so it was really a big old CYA, a big old cover your own ass for the state of Arkansas to go, okay, we're going to be out hundreds of millions of dollars for wrongful convictions if this goes back to trial. And there's a huge chance that it's going to go to trial, and there's a really huge chance that they shall be found innocent or acquitted. So let's just do the Alfred plea thing. It's 2 birds, 1 stone, right? We can get our guilty pleas. We can not say that we were wrong in any way. We can say that we still believe fully that these fellas did this, and we can protect ourselves from lawsuits, right? And that's kind of where it stopped. So again, I think what's the saddest for me is that you have 3 folks, 6, let's say 6. You have 6 folks, right? That 3 of them were murdered and will never see true justice. Right, because the state refuses. And I won't say they'll never see true justice. There's a lot of folks out there that continue to try to find the truth around this case. But you have 3 folks that the state of Arkansas refuses to seek justice for, right, just because they don't want to admit that they kind of screwed the pooch. So you've got 3 young boys that did not get to have a life that they deserve. Someone stole that from them. On top of that, those 3 boys, those crimes continue to truly go unsolved. So there's not even any true justice for them or for their loved ones, their families. You have 3 other boys, which were boys. Let's just say that, right? 17, 18, 18 was the oldest. Damian Eccles was 18. That lost 18 years and 78 days of their lives simply because they dressed different, they looked different, and they listened to heavy metal music. I looked different when I was their age. I wore Metallica t-shirts. I still do. I'm in my 30s. I still wear Metallica t-shirts. I still listen to Metallica. I think back to being that age and having black fingernails, wearing, some like spiky bracelets and chains and dyeing my hair black. Like, I did all the same stuff. Maybe not the breaking and entering, maybe not some of the other kind of trouble that they got into, or at least I didn't get caught, right? But I'm going, that could have been me. That could have been someone else, right? Similar to me. That could have been one of my friends. I grew up in a small rural town just like that. If you were different, you're bad. Different is bad. And ultimately, that's what convicted these 3. They were different. To us, we view different as a good thing, right? And fortunately, in most of today's society, we view different and special and unique as a good thing. But during the Satanic Panic, being different was really fucking scary. Being different would cost you 18 years and 78 days of your life. Have you had a really fucking scary experience? Have you seen a ghost? Have you been on a macabre adventure? Would you like to share it on air? Would you like for us to tell that story, or you just have something horrid that you would like for us to talk about? Head over to PaleHorseMediaCo.com. Use the contact form to let us know all about it. Make sure that you subscribe. New episodes come out every single Friday. We look forward to continuing this creepy, crawly, morbid, macabre, and grotesque adventure with you, the listener. We love you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us today.